Welcome to Earful of Dirt, bringing you the latest Major League Rugby news, views, and abuse. Now here are your hosts, Aaron, Dan, and Victor.
And we're live. Welcome, everyone. Good evening to Earful of Dirt, episode 19. Lots of stuff went down. These Sabercats dropped their first match against Top Rose, and RC New York announced their staffs, one formally and one sort of interesting way. Then we're going to talk about the subject of the academy player in the MLR system and their role. And then we'll get into some player signings, and maybe there's some abuse that Corey found, and some tweets that Dan found. And well, look what the cat dragged in. We got another guest, guys. My friend Tosan Tomway of viralrugby.com. Welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Doing real good. What's new with you guys?
Well, just there's games being played now, man.
That's good news. That's good news.
So, before we get into it all, let's talk about T. Let's talk about how you got into the rugby media business for about, we could go on for about an hour, but let's bring it to 5.
Oh yeah. Trying to say, where's the starting point? Well, it all started when I was asked by this guy named T'Challa to be the director of Wakanda Rugby Football Union, and made these moves. And he said, you have a talent for this. You were a great loose head, but you're really good for the media. Make sure you guys go see. Anybody listening, go see Black Panther when it comes out next month. But no, I got into this 2 years ago. And it started out with, I saw that there were a lot of gaps in rugby media, not just in the U.S. but worldwide. Right? It was the rugby media didn't look like rugby. It just looked like certain areas that play rugby. So that's why I started doing what I did with highlight videos. So highlight videos with women. Highlight videos with small countries, highlight videos of sevens, things that help bring more eyeballs to the game itself with whatever the code, but also doing it in an entertaining way. And that blossomed into a blog, then to video podcasting, and show ideas, and then linking with you guys and doing things like this to help sort of amplify the rugby signal.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen the viral rugby stuff, I don't know how you couldn't be if you're listening to this, because I've seen plenty of them, and that was before we even became acquainted many moons ago, as it were now. So yeah, glad you're on with us, and I look forward to some highlight videos that you will unleash in the coming months. So we're going to get into it. Sabercats versus University of British Columbia Old Boys, quotations, Vancouver Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
This was pretty intense, guys. The weather didn't cooperate. They sold a little bit over 2,000 tickets. I think the amount of comps was about the same, so about 130, 150 as it was last week. So still a lot of people paying money to go watch rugby. Like I said, the weather was pretty rough. You had a week of rain in the southeast part of Texas and New Orleans area. You can talk to the New Orleans guys about what their field turned into. But about kickoff, it was about 30 Fahrenheit. So for a kids' night promotion, that sort of, that was the intent, but it was sort of a flop. In that, because the weather just didn't cooperate. Everyone I saw, people seem to be having a raging time based on what was on the Major League Rugby Instagram. So if anyone's wondering, Vancouver Ravens brought their first side that plays in the BC Premier League. And you saw them declaw the Sabercats a little bit after their routing of the Seattle Saracens. Here's the difference, though. the Saracens are second from the bottom of the standings in the amateur BC Premier League in British Columbia. The Ravens are second from the top, and there's like 6 teams in between. And also the Saracens, had injuries. It wasn't their first side. Cats lost, 23-26. A bunch of mental errors, 2 cards to end the first half, and the scrummaging ended up going into the dark arts for the Ravens side if you listen to the broadcast by our friend Grant Cole. And you can't give up 3 penalty kicks because McQueen with his boot will kill you. But who were the Ravens? Well, about 7 of those guys came from the UBC program. About 8 of them had like age grade caps for Canada. You have a few, one dude that, has 25 caps with Canada, very good side. And, this is the beginning of professionalism. Dan, to you.
Yeah. Hey guys. I'm back. I wasn't here last week. I was actually, as I think Aaron mentioned, I was stuck in Panama. I was in Colombia for about 2.5 weeks or something. It was about 85 degrees down there. It was wonderful. And I come back to New York. It's about 25 degrees and freezing. But I missed the bomb cyclone. But it did keep me stuck in Panama for about 2 or 3 extra days. So that was exactly what I wanted to happen. Anyway, which everyone actually wants to hear about. It was, as Aaron said, a bit of an unfortunate loss. It is the beginning of professionalism. It is a really skilled Vancouver Ravens side. Brian Ray who is the Canada guy from those newsmakers up there, he said that 9 of those players are CRC players, 3 are former U20 or U19 players for Canada, former UBC players, 2 Canada A players, Canadian, I think a New Zealander, and an Irish guy as well. Some of those applied to the same people twice, but that's a really talented group they got up there. It's not just one Eagle or one U20 guy up there. It's I didn't get to really listen to the but it sounded like it was a really tight match leading up to it. I think Sabercats went ahead 20-10 at one point around halftime, if I'm not mistaken. Can someone correct me here? Or I'm just
it was 17-0, and then they scored.
Yeah. So 17-0, then it just caught up to them, I guess. But disappointing, like I said, but this is rugby players up there. So yeah, that's my analysis for my 2 minutes to listen to the broadcast. Victor, do you get a chance to listen in?
Yes, I did. And by the way, everyone, good evening. Welcome to Earful of Dirt. So yes, guys, I definitely did listen to the broadcast, the whole broadcast. Of course, Grant Cole and Brian Mullins, great. And finally got to hear it in 2 halves instead of just one, like what we had last week. But yeah, the game was, as Dan said, it was quite tight. The end of first time, it was 17-10, by the way. And all of a sudden, the game just went out of the Sabercats' hands, and they ended up losing by 3 points, 26-23. Now, keep in mind that if Zach Pangelinin, or whatever you pronounce his last name, because I can never get it right, would have gotten right. Those.
You said it.
Pangelinin? Okay, good. Thank you. Pangelinin? Okay, thank you. Because I don't know if it's Pangelinin.
It's Pangelinin.
It's Pangelinin? Thank you. Because I don't know where to put the accent on. So, but thank you.
Is it like a sand shrew kind of animal? Pangolin? No.
Oh, like a pangolin. Yes. Yes. Yeah, good point. Yeah, like a pangolin. Yes. Yeah, good point there, Dan. I didn't even thought about that. Yeah, it sounds just like pangolin. Yeah, man, I love pangolins. They're very interesting animals. Anyways, going back to rugby. So you would have made.
And
I don't know how we went from pangolin to rugby.
Animal podcasts.
Oh, dude, I'll kill it if we get like a zoology podcast. I know I'll kill it.
They're in
No.
danger.
No. I think no. Oh my goodness, no, bro. I think I would do really good in the podcast because I'm a Discovery Kids, Animal Planet kid. Like when my family got a cable back home in the Dominican Republic, those were like my two favorite channels to watch, including Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, like any kid. So there's 4 channels. So I grew up with my
Earth fan?
Oh yeah, oh dude, like seriously, like again, Animal Planet and Discovery Kids. Those were my things growing up back home in the Dominican Republic. Subumafu was already here in the States. So, although I do love the Brad brothers, I mean, of course, I didn't know they were Australian until I saw the English version. Because the Spanish obviously sound Mexican. But still, really cool nonetheless. Yo, let's go back to rugby. Like, how are we talking about this? So, if SAG would make those 2 conversion kids, they would have won 27-26, by the way, if you do the math. But it is what it is. Oh, by the way, I just noticed, guys, I messed up in Mr. Mills' name is Brent Mills. I'm sorry. I just remember it said Brian Mullins. I don't know where I got that. Excuse me. Brent Mills. Excuse me. Grant, if you don't tell Brent, excuse me, to listen to this. Because he'll be offended. No. In all seriousness. Game was really tight. Again, they only lost by those 3 points. If those 2 commercial kits would have been made at the 7-minute with the sack try and then with the Joshua Bishi tried, they would have won. But it's what it is. But yeah, really cool game nonetheless. Let's move on.
Tosan, jump in.
So I think I'm as excited as I am to sort of see MLR get rolling. I don't want us to put our, hang our hats on too much of what's going on right now, and there's 2 reasons why. When we look at, you can see I'm a front row, tight 5. I mean, from college all the way up through, and time together is the most important thing that a pack needs to gel. So when you don't have continuity, the more continuous side is able to weather, any of the talent deficiencies and the, hey, surprise, we don't know what this team's going to be, comes up in the beginning. And then that patience and consistency tends to win the day. And then you have, you win by kick. So that being said, nothing to be alarmed about by any means. This is still exhibition stage. These guys are getting their rugby legs about them together. They're probably testing out some things, and somebody has to be first. And these guys have gone out and been first in there. And what I'm really measuring is how far ahead they are of the other teams. That's what I'm interested in now. So what type of activity is going on when we compare the teams that we know about currently? That's where I kind of look at it. I'm just enjoying the fact that the MLR is actually moving forward and it's getting traction, and people are getting traction in their local areas. But I think, bad weather, early, these guys are just getting their briefcases down, learning each other's names. This is going to be, we're going to see, I guess the only real difference is because we saw them be so dominant against the Saracens. But as Castro said, the Saracens aren't particularly competitive in the BC League. So that wasn't really a good litmus test of what this match was going to look like. And, BC is a very entrenched program. They've been at the top of what's going on out there for a long time. So it was a great test in the sense that, it's something we're going to want to watch later on because the Sabercats have put something together.
Yeah, I think I'm still really happy. I mean, we went from 5,000 or so people to 2,000. 2,000 is still a great number.
Yeah,
I said I was a little bit disappointed in the sense that I wanted to be 5,000 again, just so I can do a backflip there. But it's really just like it's not bad. It's just
do we know what the break even was for that venue?
I want to say. I don't know. I know that the first game they made
was
both
3,500, right?
I think that's what I think. I know that for
the boxes too?
That includes
That's the question.
That's the question. I know that selling out the boxes gets them pretty close to like everything else's like profit, basically.
Great, brilliant.
So, and the boxes are sold for like the whole preseason, and but apparently the first match they weren't. There were some factors going in, and they ran out of stuff.
Yeah.
So this match
didn't expect it to get as big as it did.
Yeah. So and then this time they doubled capacity of what concessions can handle.
Good.
And I know for the first match, everyone made a lot of money. It's like you look at that and you're like, whoa. But I can't really. We can't really always like divulge like numbers, but
no, we can't.
But people, everyone, all parties included the first match made money.
What's kind of important from that too is that 2,000 people showed up for what is essentially, I mean, at this point in time, like a D1 elite club match. Obviously, the professional. That's a different story, but it's essentially
we'd be lucky to pull that for a national championship final.
So another thing that was brought up. Another thing was brought up. Yeah, I know, right? Another thing that was brought up is like, so it was the start of club rugby in Texas last week. And so now people are trying to figure out how they can play their own matches and get to the game. That's so what we saw were the people that, for the most part, weren't attached to playing a rugby match on a Saturday.
Which is nice. So I think I brought up the numbers kind of saying like a little bit disappointed, but it's not really something I should be disappointed about. They have about 10 of these games coming up, and it's like you said, Tosan, it's just like they're here actually doing this, not just fielding a scrimmage as their preseason, but they're actually selling tickets. People are coming that can get involved. We heard tons of stories about new fans who've never even seen.
So the first week, we had like a bunch of people joined the Reddit board that we moderate, that Corey so graciously started when the rumors started flying. The first week, hey, new fan, I'm going to my first professional match. This last week, new fan, going to my first professional match. And it was like, what? Like, so rugby is the message is getting out there. And I think for this next match, you're going to see, I don't know if they'll hit where they hit. They might go over where they hit, or they might go just a little under, but I think the marketing has been stepped up a little for this national side that they're going to play. And, they're being very careful to link in with the Hispanic population in, Southeast Texas. So I think they're going to do really well this week. Now moving on to, just to sort of hit with UBC Old Boys, like, Tosan and I kind of talked about it offline, but this is a kind of side that would pretty much slice through the D1 competition in this country as it currently stands. So, all the MLR players pulled out of, D1 clubs, because that's how many regular clubs have, 8 guys from the U20 system. Or one of the top 7 guys from one of the top rugby universities right. So it's that's who they were facing. And this side had been together for I'm not saying they've been together 6 months. They've been together for a couple of years, so
5, 6, 7 years.
Some of the guys been together longer than that. Just in general, some of the U20 guys have been together for however long. Like, you get what I mean? It's just there's so much synergy and continuity just based on how Canada's organized. That's a big deal.
And to preview the RY match, Victor's doing some work on it, but I'm just gonna say a few things that are totally uneducated. They're bringing up their top side because they need to get a good warm up, and they're planning to win against Canada away. All of their overseas pros are in, and in fact, their top professional, whose name I don't have in front of me, who had retired from international play, has raised his hand again and is putting on the tarot shirt to get this thing done. Victor, what do you got for me, man?
Okay, guys, so since Latin American or Hispanic rugby is sort of my cup of tea, I'll jump straight into this. So as Aaron said, Uruguay is bringing up their A game, their top side, to this exhibition match. Now, the player whose name escapes you, Aaron, is Rodrigo Capó Ortega. Now, he does not have the most caps of the Uruguayan team, but he is the most consistent professional player they have. So he's been playing in France for now, I believe, 10 years or close to 10 years, and he has literally played his whole French career in Castres or Cast, whatever you pronounce it in French. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Merci beaucoup. Excusez-moi on that one. So he's been playing his whole career in that team. And the last time that he played for the Teros was in the qualifier for the 2015 World Cup against Russia. Now, what happened was that after that game, he said, I'm not going to play at the World Cup because I have my daughter who's going to be born soon, and I want to be there for my wife, which is a great thing, by the way. So he stepped away from the team, was there with his wife. The little girl, as far as I know, is in good health. Everything's going well. Probably speaks more French than Spanish, which is sad, but it's what it is when you live in France. In any case, he felt that him leaving the team was sort of like a sour note, so he decided to come back into the team and jump in for the 2019 World Cup. And here he is again, because he did not officially retire from international rugby. He just sort of took a break from the national side because, again, of what happened with his wife. But moving from him and going into the other players, so the Uruguayan League, which is amateur, has about 10 teams in the country. The top 2 teams in the country are, and check out the names, All Boys and All Christians. And those are the names in English because the ones that brought rugby to Uruguay were the English settlers of the Rio de la Plata area, which shares the same area with Argentina. But in any case, if you look at the roster of 26 players, most of the team is coming straight from All Blues and All Christians. They also have one of their top teams, which is Carrasco Polo, which is a polo club, but they also play rugby.
What was that?
As well as, I believe... I'm sorry?
What was the name of it?
Carrasco Polo.
Oh. It sounds a lot like a roast con pollo, so I just...
Oh, it's not... It doesn't... Yo, Dan, way to break up the mood, bro.
Because Victor says podcast. He goes, popcast.
Podcast.
Yeah, because I think there's a P and not a D, okay? I know it should be podcast, but it's a podcast, okay? You guys know English is my second language, okay? But yes, it does sound like arroz con pollo, but no. It's Carrasco Polo. This is a polo.
I'd call a rugby club here arroz con pollo. That'd be awesome.
No, I mean, that's cool. But anyways. So that. Also, and funny enough, they only have one player from the oldest rugby club in the Americas, which is Montevideo Cricket Club, which has been around since 1870 or 1860 something. It's the 3rd oldest club in the world, and they only have one player from that club. And Montevideo Cricket is actually no pushover. I'm actually quite surprised they only have one. And besides that, they also have their other internationals, specifically coming from France, all of them 3rd division, and also one of my favorite. Actually, no, they have one guy that plays in Oyonnax, which is Manuel Lein Dekar, I believe it's Lein Dekar. That's one of those weird last names. And also one of my top guys, Agustin Ormay Chea, who plays in Strasbourg, which is, I believe, in Federal 1, which is 3rd division French league.
Strasbourg?
So, that's how you pronounce it? Strasbourg, whatever the heck it's pronounced.
Strasbourg.
Well, that one.
Yeah.
That's a place close to the German border, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, in English,
that's why I don't know how to pronounce it.
Strasbourg.
Well, that place. Come on, guys. Jenna Paula Francais, nein sprechen Deutsch. What else do you want from me? I don't speak French or German, okay? Cut me some slack. Hablo español a inglés or English. So yeah, so they're bringing that guy too. And of the 26 players, 12 of them played in the past World Cup, which is not too shabby. So I think, at least for my money, I'm actually going to disagree with that with you, Daniel. I think it's going to be Teros for the W, I think. I hope I'm wrong, because really, as someone who's an American citizen, I would rather see the U.S. team win. But I believe, for my money, maybe Uruguay might win this match.
I think that's a pretty safe bet as well. I was completely joking.
The Eagles have had trouble with Uruguay. So
yeah, lately.
I mean, the huge win here for Sabercats is selling out and being within 10. If they draw, that's like as good as a victory. And, you know, a loss is a loss, period. But if they're able to draw against the national side that has troubled our national team, that's something.
It's also
it puts the league on notice.
From as far as I know, I don't know the most recent time a national team, Lions, a national team playing a professional team, especially professional team in the United States.
Eagles have. We've played Harlequins and as World Cup warm-up stuff. We've played premiership teams. I mean, it happens.
I'm just gonna pretend I didn't say that.
We played Harlequins in the build-up to the last World Cup. So
I'm sure this brings a lot more notice to people in other countries than just playing another MLR side or Vancouver.
So T, what do you think could be the thing?
You have to re-ask that question. He just
Tosan.
Hello.
What do you think could be the thing for this match?
So, two things. One of you guys touched on it, is the awareness of this league. I think that one of the most valuable things for this come away from this is PR, right? So the world is aware that we're doing this. And because of that, all of these events now extend our market reach. So people are going to be looking where to watch this, where to read about it, particularly in Latin America. We're going to be looking into making sure that everybody can get that, it's whether it's people translating, that type of thing, to make sure as many people as possible are able to consume this media. Now, as far as the game itself, in terms of technical things for Uruguay, this is a great test for them. Fantastic test. I think that they're going to, as Castro said, they want to get their ducks in a row to take on Canada. And Canada's down. I mean, they smell blood in the water. I think that Canada is going to put their best foot they can forward, but Uruguay they're probably smelling their chance here. They had a decent World Cup campaign for considering the pool they were in previously. So they only feel that they can build on that, I'd imagine. So why not try to get back there? I think that this region has a lot to say for itself, in terms of when we talk about NACRA, et cetera, South America, everything. I think we have to start unifying ourselves in this hemisphere so that we can sort of grow together. I would love to see MLR end up with a couple Latin American and a Caribbean side. I would love to see that. I would love to see the development of this extend to where something like that is viable. I mean, I just came back from Jamaica. It's a $200 or $300 flight if you get it at the right time. There's nothing prohibitive about the travel. It's more expensive for me to fly to San Francisco than it is for me to fly to Trinidad and Tobago. Like these are the things that are in place, you know.
We ain't losing the TNT in rugby anytime soon. Okay.
No. But one thing that's really, really important though, as these areas improve, that increases our ability to compete, and that's what I really care about. Like the reason that going back to the Sabercats match, the reason why that was such a tough match is because they are competing day in and day out against the top competition available. We're still trying to get to where it's consistent, where we can do that for 5 years and pick a pool of Eagles that have been developing in that since they were 20. You know, we're not there yet, but that's what we want to get to. And that's a 5-10 year sort of scope. And we can't do it by ourselves. As many players as we have in the United States, mark my words, we cannot do it by ourselves. The surrounding regions have to also improve to provide us with regional, local, cheap to play competition for us to continue developing the way we need until we can get some money and some eyeballs on this type of thing.
And by the way, Tosan, that you mentioned the fact that you were down in Jamaica. I hope you had a really good trip down there. And also the fact that what you just mentioned regarding the development of rugby in the Caribbean. For those of you that might not be aware of this, in cricket, the West Indian nations actually join as one group, as one team called the Windies, they call it nowadays, or West Indies.
Legendary.
Now, that's one thing I would definitely like to see in rugby, a West Indies rugby team.
How about
some of those guys?
British rugby team? What?
Oh, has it happened before? West Indies in rugby?
They used to do it in sevens. So at Vegas, the West Indians used to be like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. There used to be a West Indian sort of selects that played, and I thought that was a great concept. I think now that things are developing all around for us in NACRA and etc. I don't see why that wouldn't have legs. Actually, I had a teammate of mine played on it. He represents Guyana, and
there we go.
You know, these are things that are tangible for us that we're not tapping into, but these are all things that put more eyeballs on it, more people get stakeholders. Cool. You know,
so West Indies Rugby Union, 1975, the last time they qualified to. As the pick, I guess, you know, that one team that gets to go into the tournament. The last time they played was in Vegas was in 2008. They played.
Yep. I was there.
USA Sevens in 05, 06, 07, and 2008.
So in 15 will be cool because you get some of the guys from the Crux, you get some of the guys from Barbados, some of the guys from TNT. Some of the guys from Guyana, and you have a nice. Yeah, of course, you could have a really nice team right there. Really, if you think about it, that's not a bad idea.
I think even going off Tosan is like you said that we need to not stick to our hemisphere, but focus on coordinating our hemisphere because we always try to go to Europe for obvious reasons, like get the national team to play over there or something to get involved with them.
Exposure money, you know,
Yeah, exposure money, it makes more sense. But I think it'd be great if we could really focus on the Americas as a whole. I mean, South America is so much further behind other than Argentina, so it's tougher. But if one day, like years, and this is like a dream, I've mentioned this before, like if we can do like actually have a South American competition between multiple countries, maybe like a Super Rugby kind of thing, but down in South America, and then do like MLR versus South America or have a touring side go down there. As we like to do as Americans,
and exhibitions.
This is the Monroe Doctrine, but for rugby. Like this is our hemisphere. We control this.
Yeah.
No, it's
manifest destiny in rugby.
It's all. I mean, to think about it though, like there's nothing stop. Like, can you imagine this? Okay, 5 to 6 USA teams. Two Central American teams, maybe a Central American and a Caribbean side, and then a couple South American sides. That's a fantastic set up. And a lot of players, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of different stakeholders watching. Like, think about the big regional sponsors in this hemisphere, right? That's how you get eyeballs like that on something.
Yeah.
You know, the Unilever, Nestle's, the you know, the big food guys and ag guys. They want these are the big brands, Pepsi's and all that. They're going to, that's something they could get interested in. Like, I think that sometimes we get caught up in, and me and Castro have talked about this. We like building things that we can drown in a bathtub. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, because in the sense that we like to take things then scale them, but also it's got a little bit of fear, right? We have a bit of an inferiority complex here in the U.S. when it comes to rugby. So when we approach things, we want to keep the expectations as low as possible. So, because if it doesn't do great, that means I don't have to do anything else. But if it does great, that means I have to figure out how I did it and do it again. And we're getting to the stage where we're more professional than amateur, where we can do these things in operational ways and operationalize them and repeat them over and scale them over and over and over and over and over again, where we can have 5 teams or 15 teams or 50 teams, and then 80% of them make it. That's what we want to get to. But we got that thinking. We have to have an idea of where we're going. And I think that's the next step for us, is let's blow up this hemisphere. Talent, all the competition explodes, more competition opportunities, pools get bigger because there's more things to play, more places to play, brings more people with money to the table. That's what we got to do.
We need to really show off our rugby, because we have it, we clearly have it, but a lot of times we want to stick to the the old traditional back from English ways, and like that's what the clubs are all about. But we have our own tradition here, and show it off by if we have these competitions on the Western Hemisphere, showing it that way. I
always wonder why so many people look back to the Commonwealth countries or the UK, say, let's do it that way, because I go, hey guys, doing it that way. Well, we've played rugby in this country for 160 years, and doing it that way, well, rugby died for 30 years.
Yeah.
We won 2 gold medals. So de facto, I don't care if you didn't show up. If you didn't show up to play, our gold medal, right? We won the games that were played. So
it's an American way of looking at it.
Hey.
But even though
play the game. If you don't show up, it doesn't matter.
Even though that was a joke, it is very much like the American way. We don't like feeling like other countries. We're doing what other countries are doing. We like doing our team. We like doing our league. We don't want to do a British league.
Even that, right? Like, let's say we took that model, right? We've taken a lot of models from international sports, fine, but that's different than how you market a sport, right? And we can't sell. I'm not gonna. I've done some outside sales when I was in biotech. I'm not gonna sell to one scientist the same way I was going to sell to like an epidemiologist. I'm just not, because they have different concerns, the segments are different. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to sell what appeals to Britain and the British and the expats and people, the Commonwealth countries, about rugby to people in the Americas who look at sports differently. It's a different sports market. And what are the characteristics about it, right? First things I think about, as Americans, our American rugby identity has to center around our American sports values, good, bad, or whatever. Like how we are about it. I love sportsmanship. I love, camaraderie. I love all those things. Those things don't sell tickets. They don't. Think of the greatest sports events of our generation. Think of like the trilogies of Muhammad Ali and those guys. We want to see. We like rivalries in the United States. We like excellence and we like rivalries. Going back to as racist as it was, Catholics versus convicts. That was college. They were able to market that, and that type of thing fills a stadium. The people that's what people that know nothing of rugby in America are going to look for in the sport. And if we're going to retain them, we have to be entertaining and we have to appeal to that. Because you figure we have a 40 to 50% chance of retaining anybody that encounters this product.
Well, so we have a 50% chance of retaining someone who joins to play. So
right.
what is our retention
of fans?
Of fans.
And nobody measured that. Guarantee you.
Yeah, we also need to focus more on getting people involved, and I've seen that a lot with MLR, getting people involved who are not rugby players.
Exactly.
Because we say this a lot, so I don't want to just beat a dead horse, but we focus so much on marketing to the rugby players who played, so they know it, they love it. Say, yeah, this is fun. I remember, playing when I was younger or something like that, whatever. But that's such a small community as is that MLR or any league that comes about, 90% of their fans in the next 10 years are not going to be current rugby players. It's going to be people who have never played before, or if they did play, it was years and years ago, but they weren't a real serious rugby player.
Right.
I mean, this podcast alone has 2 non-rugby players, myself, who just joined 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't know about Aaron, a couple of years ago, and I think you played too to some.
I've had awareness, but I've only played for 4. So
yeah. But
I guess I'm the senior guy here.
You're the senior guy. But you're not going to get in America.
Yeah, you are.
Very consistently people who've been playing their entire lives.
Correct.
Those people usually end up going to play for
Tosan Tomway, the guy who, he's went into All-American camp playing rugby, so
shaking his head.
Just telling you about rugby national side experience. But
I think it's funny though, because I don't know how many of y'all have run into this, but we still have a brand issue with rugby in the US too. Just when you say the word rugby. I have a professional career outside of this. When we talk professional business professional, working with executives and things like that. And I can't tell you how frustrated I get when, you're associated with rugby, or say, here's something about me in rugby or something like that. And the first thing they talk about is some wild party they went to. They remember nothing about the sport, remember nothing about the game. They remember some crazy guy, some crazy girl, some crazy game they went to. And that was
which is fun.
Yeah.
But those things, if we want to be ultimate frisbee, okay, cool. But that's not going to fly if we want to be something that's going to make $1. Nobody invests in recreation, not in any real scalable spectatorship way, not in the U.S. You can, do a nonprofit, keep people fit, blah, 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 blah. Then you come health and fitness. That's not sports entertainment. So we've got to kind of keep working to make this look good and make it look like something that people want to be a part of,
Yeah. I mean, the appeal to me when I actually first looked into rugby, I actually looked into playing football after college.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started playing, any clubs or teams or whatever they're called after college are really just 10 guys show up, linemen, but then there's the wide receiver that shows up 15 minutes late and then just goes out for the deep passes or something. It's fun.
That's
but no one actually
rugby
cares.
That I was a member of 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure there are rugby clubs like that, unless there aren't. But then when I joined the rugby, and even though it was a D3 club that didn't have as many players, it was still a team.
Mm-hmm.
It still felt like people actually wanted to come out. They wanted to actually hang out afterwards and be friends with each other for the most part. Yeah, socialize. So it was actually when you're older, you're not. You want to win championships when you're at post college, 25 years old, but it's not the end of the world if your team kind of sucks as long as you're having fun.
Yeah.
Well, so, I think that's part of and being sure I've talked about this too. We have two lines of rugby and sport in general in the U.S. And it's participation and performance. And we blend the two in rugby here. We want people to participate, but we want performance out of it. But really, they're two different lanes. LeBron does not play church league basketball.
That'd be cool.
He doesn't. You know,
That'd be cool.
It would be cool. I'm sure there's some great church league teams that are probably good enough to give somebody a run, but they never cross lanes. And I think that's what people have to get used to, because people aren't going to pay. I mean, we will pay, but our friends and people that aren't as invested as we are aren't going to pay to see amateurs. It is not. That's not what we do in the U.S. We are paying for professional sports, professional quality. We are wanting to be entertained, a la Gladiator. Yep. That's the nature of it. And I think they ask, is MLR delivering? I'm seeing flashes of possibilities that it can. I'm seeing potential. I'm seeing the right people. I'm seeing the right sort of look. The jerseys kind of look good. The events look fun. The social media is active for some of these teams. These are all things that surround, you get people engaged with teams like we're used to. I mean, those of us, yeah, right. It's people that remain nameless, right? But think about it. Like, those of us that have played, right? I coach select side, collegiate up to Marfu, like regional. It's not Marfu anymore. And there were folks that came out to a game. I came out to our trials, and I asked, how many of you own a rugby ball? Half of them rose, hands went up. Half out of 70 people. How many of you own some other piece of sports equipment? And everybody's hand rose. These folks were one level below playing for the national team. Only half of them owned a rugby ball. That's how disengaged we are in the rugby market.
It's also tough to actually
spending the money.
One.
No, it's not. It is not. You go World Rugby Shop, $10 on sale, good to go.
Okay, tough in the sense that
and they have them in Dick's out here. I don't know if I'm out here at we have Dick's Sporting Goods out here on the East Coast, and they've started selling Gilbert and Mikasa, some brand. They've been stocking them.
Apparently, so my sister, bless her heart, I've never seen a Mikasa. I've seen Mikasa like everything else. I've never seen a Mikasa ball in my life. And then so two people, a friend of mine, he's coach at Grand Canyon, Adam Machinsky, shout out to him. And then, shout out to Grant Cole. They're both like, those balls are destructible. They're $40 balls, but they'll last you 10 years. Whereas a Gilbert ball, if you play with it enough, you probably got to go, So, yeah. I think, what about you guys? Move forward? Kind of stuck. We move on to Ontario?
I guess people probably want to hear more about that. At this point. We're rehashing.
I don't know much about
this. This is a great discussion, and you will all be able to listen to it on podcasts if you want. But and we're gonna do this again. So, Ontario Arrows staff. Mark Winokur, the old team manager of the Ontario Blues program, has been appointed general manager for the Ontario Arrows. He has kept the core of the Ontario Blues staff, bringing in Chris Silverthorne as head coach, who is a winner of 5 Canadian Rugby Championship titles over 7 years. He brings in, he was an assistant with the National and A sides. He brings in Corey Hector, head coach of Guelph University, the 2016 Ontario University champions, and David Butcher, head coach of Queen's University, the 2017 Ontario University champions, and Aaron Carpenter, Le Rouge number 323. There we go, mouthful. Damn.
It's a pretty nice setup they got going on, because even though the actual team is assembling, actually joining what we think is MLR, or is that's been confirmed actually, has that? Or unofficially confirmed?
They have not come out and said that they are a part of. They have said they are wanting to be a part of. Okay, so
MLR basically. We hope to see him in 2019, but they're not expecting to play until 2019. Professionally, they're playing this year, obviously, They could have gotten by with just Winokur as their head coach and, whatever local guys felt like showing up, or player coaches or something like that, which actually some of the player coaches, they're currently professional. So they have the most winningest coach in CRC history, 2 assistant coaches who were champions of the Ontario University in 2016-17, and then, as Aaron said, Aaron Carpenter, who is the most capped Canadian, who I think did he play professionally overseas too?
Yes.
Yeah, I would assume so. So that's a pretty good group, and those are only 4 of them. Like, that's not the entire group. There are, I think, 4 or 5 other coaches and academy coaches too. So Ontario is really taking this seriously, which is really awesome to see. They're not too far from New York, so I'm really hoping for good matches between New York and Ontario, if there really are regional divisions or something like that. I think that'd be really awesome. Victor, you want to go?
Yes, I was just waiting to see what's going to happen.
You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for me. Just jump in.
Okay, we'll do. No problem. Okay, so yes, I'm looking at the names, and things are looking good so far in the Ontario Arrows, I have to say. So hopefully they do indeed enter Major League Rugby by 2019. And yes, since Ontario province is quite close to New York State, I'm expecting the team to come down to New York City again to play. I was first seeing the game they had with All Blue. Really good game, by the way. It got to the wire as well. Oh, actually, they were not called Ontario Arrows at the time. They were still called Ontario Blues, but But really, it was a really good game. 31-29 was the score. I still remember it. That's how memorable the game was. But yeah. Again, kudos to the Arrows, and best of luck for them coming into the following season, I hope. Tosan, go right ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Tosan, but it's actually really good to see that Ontario is very active on social media. Saying tweets like, "Oh, great practice," but they're actually posting pictures, everything like that. Good shit. So, go on, Tosan.
I'm about to say the same. I actually haven't. I've just started following, getting a sense of what Ontario's doing. So, but from like what we had mentioned before, they have big names, big local names, I should say, big regional names, and I think that's going to be the foothold that's going to pull people. Ontario rugby is pretty popping. I think it's second to. I don't know how. I can't really say how it ranks in comparison to Toronto or Vancouver. So
so the 2 leading provinces for the CRC is Ontario and BC. 2017, the head coach for the Seawolves now was the 2017 CRC champion, and then the 3 years prior, it was this guy.
So of 10 provinces, only 2 are good, which is Ontario and British Columbia. Everyone else is sort of like in between.
It's weird though, because at the New York Sevens tournament, there were a shit ton of people from Montreal, like mostly like all French Canadians, like a ton of them. I don't know why they all decided to come. I guess because it's warmer. I mean, that's what they told me. It's warmer in New York than it is in Montreal in November, but like, there were a ton of guys out there. There's at least good numbers. I don't know if they're actually successful, but I think Canada also really just focuses on Vancouver and BC because of the Premier League and now their headquarters for the national team, and then Ontario for, I guess, similar reasons. And then you have to go to one of the places if you want to make it there.
Quebec is very interesting because when it comes to men's rugby, Quebec is sort of down, but when it comes to women's rugby, Quebec is like number 1.
I'm about to say.
I don't know why.
Magley Harvey, Karen Pacan, they're all from that. I mean, these are heavy hitters that are coming out of there from the women's side, which I thought was really interesting.
The weird thing is, unlike, a lot of like here where like the places are sort of similar and where the top flight rugby athletes, if they, have been playing rugby from an early time, come from, Canada seems to be like, they don't, people people don't seem to be coming from the same places. Like men come from a specific place, and then women come from another.
Right.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Me neither, but I just found that really interesting. It's really sad though that we don't get to see anyone from Manitoba or Prince Edward Island, Saskatchewan. I mean, you got
Are they playing
players,
out
for
there,
example, but I mean, not many though. Like, there's very few
Oh.
guys from Saskatchewan.
It's because the
dang
place is
it.
covered with
You would
snow.
assume it would be a lot more.
Saskatchewan.
But I don't know, but dang it. I mean,
They're all hockey
Saskatchewan.
players.
Bro. Yeah, exactly. They're all hockey players. Exactly the same thing with Manitoba. I want to see some guys from Manitoba. Very few guys in the national team come from those three places. Heck, from Newfoundland. Very few. I don't even. No. I think there's like 2 or 3 guys from the Atlantic Rock from up there.
He's trying to get us
let's
out
not even talk about
to,
Nova Scotia and New Brunswick.
Out with Brian.
Yeah, exactly. New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. I mean, like, what the heck? And let's not even talk about the people up in the territories and Yukon or West Territories.
Because the snow doesn't melt.
Yes, of course. I understand those 3 places, though. Dang it.
Moving on to Rugby Club New York. So Victor's right. The Ontario Blues program had come down to play Old Blue. And then earlier this fall, they also played this fall in addition to last spring. Earlier this fall, the Ontario Arrows ran a proof of concept tour. They flew to Denver and then went by bus the 2 miles it takes to get to Glendale. So I think it's like 5 or 6, but they played the Glendale Raptors. Ontario Arrows have a home-and-home series against a Boston Select side and also against Rugby Club New York, which gets us to the Rugby Club New York staff. This hasn't really been announced, but it was like a footnote at the bottom of a article on Rugby Today, so which makes it kind of interesting. So I guess a soft announcement. On paper, it's just 2 guys. I wonder if anyone else is going to be a part of the staff. So I don't know yet. But Bruce McLean, he's a very accomplished club and college coach. Currently, he led Nyack as an assistant head coach for over a 12-year period of time. Is currently in the midst of his 3rd year at Iona College, and they don't have a football team, and it's as close to I say varsity for me is always like NCAA. I don't like entrenching the men's rugby into the varsity sphere, partially because I think it's confusing to some people, but partially because it goes to a much greater meaning of the resources that should be there, which come with NCAA status. But a high-performance, well-funded club at Iona College, they hosted. They had 3 games on ESPN3 this fall, which was really cool. Matt McCarthy called the one against Army, and he also served as manager for the USA Islanders project this last summer. He will be assisting head coach Mike Tolkin, the former USA Eagles head coach. Mike is also another former Nyack head coach, coached Nyack to 3 club national championships. He's also previously led high school powerhouse program in Xavier High School to 3 national championships and went to many semifinals with them. Dan,
I mean that's pretty good as 2 coaches in the area. I mean, you really couldn't get much better than that, especially because we don't know if this is going to be the actual Rugby Club New York coaching staff, if they're actually going to be involved, or if it's just for the exhibition. If it's just for the exhibition match coming up in the spring, because I think it's going to be Old Blue and Nyack coming together, or they're going to get players from them in New York and other clubs in the area, and then they're just going to go back to their clubs after. It's sort of like a proof of concept match. Then these are really good coaches to bring together for this. But even if they were for full time, I'd be very happy with that. I don't know too much about their actual skills as coaches and their preferences, but they are successful at the D1, at the high school level, which is also very good for bringing in an academy. You want to bring in some talented players, and having one of the best high schools in the city right there will be really awesome for the club too, as a potential future players. Anyone else? Victor, another New Yorker, you have some comments on that? You've seen him play a bit.
Sure,
too.
yeah. Let me jump in on that one. Yes, I have seen. Well, not RCNY, but I definitely have seen the Ontario Blues, as I talked about before. Really, it was a good outfit. I'm sure they're better now as the Arrows. Now, in regards to RCNY, like you just mentioned, Dan, I'm assuming that the bulk of the team is going to be all blue and New York Athletic Club. We may get a couple of your fellow guys from New York Rugby Club. Who knows? Hopefully, we gotta get some people from Morris. This other place, whatever, I forgot. No, well, I'm thinking of the D2, D3 clubs,
like
in
Village
the
Lions
city
and
area,
Brooklyn and all them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brooklyn Rugby, of course, definitely. That's my hometown team. So hopefully we get a couple of those guys in this one. Now, nice mix, I have to say, with Mike Tolkin and Bruce McLean. I know they know each other, and McLean several times has mentioned that he's best friends with, friends really with Mike. So I think they hopefully have a good synergy. Now, what I'm hoping is if this Rugby Club New York team stays long and becomes part of the fabric of the city, hopefully we're going to get a couple of the kids coming from Fordham University and others coming into this team. Maybe some of the high school kids from Xavier, after they go to college and finish, they go straight to the New York team. Hopefully that happens. So I'm crossing my fingers everything goes well. If they have something open, as in like a combine or whatever, hopefully I'll be able to go and let you guys know what's happening. Hopefully you, Dan, can go with me so the two of us can be there. But if not, I'll
take pictures from the bushes.
Of course, I'll take it upon myself. So I'll be sure to let you know. No worries. But yeah, that's my piece on that. Tosan, go ahead.
I think, like I said about Ontario, don't know quite much about it, but I'm following it now. But for the New York portion, I think it's quite a bit more interesting than even we may realize, because New York's one of those places that has potential to draw people from all kinds of places. So you don't forget, you can't forget about Connecticut. You can't forget about, from Philly to New York is not an unreasonable commute. People make it every day. So the amount of rugby within a 3-hour radius of the city of New York is actually pretty substantial. And that means, and I'm talking about good university entrenched clubs, playing at least the Division I level, have a roster of at least, maybe an A through C side in a lot of cases, all within 3 hours of New York City. So what does that mean? We haven't been able to make that into anything except, feeding some clubs. But what could we do in terms of supporting a fan base? Well, I mean, New York's the city that never sleeps. And if you can sell in New York, you can sell anywhere. So I think that there's the money there. There is the fertile ground. There is the sort of environment and openness to that type of idea. And these two clubs, thankfully, have a reasonably well-entrenched culture in New York. So, that's something that if they come together on this, it could be really interesting. Now, shout out to Bruce McLean. Shout out to Mike Tolkin. Those are pretty well-known names in the area. But like I mentioned on the notes, New York is full of rugby minds. Some of them may not be involved with rugby at all right now. And that's the other part of it. So New York has plenty of money. They have access to plenty of money through their alumni bases. If they want to put some folks on paper, some technical folks, they can get them. I mean, didn't they have not Carl Heyman, but Franks, one of the Franks brothers was up in New York working with scrums for a while. A lot of the Queensland's guys went through there, so they have no problem bringing in getting access to the rugby brains they feel they need. I mean, even Reinhard over with New York women. These are folks that fantastic coaches, fantastic minds, well developed, great pedigree in the game. Some have professional experience. I think we're just seeing the beginning of this. So that's one that I'm actually kind of low-key very excited about. I just want to see, is this going to be a scaled up version of club, are we going to make the leap into professional with this?
Yeah, New York's it's a really interesting city because it's both very easy to sell a sports team to, but at the same time extremely difficult to sell a sports team to. Weird juxtaposition. There are a ton of rugby people or even just expats from rugby playing countries in the city who would be interested. So that's a good
all of them.
Yeah, that's a good I guess small fan base in that. But I just hope they don't get lazy in the sense and say, oh, we'll just market to the rugby people. There's so many people here. We can get 5,000 people. That's great. You can get so much more if you're doing what Houston's doing and getting non-rugby people from New York. I mean, people in New York, especially if it's on Manhattan, a sports team that plays in Manhattan is a huge deal because right now the only one that's kind of close to Manhattan are the Yankees or NYCFC, which is not a soccer field, so that's a whole different conversation. But Jets never came to Manhattan. Thank God they did not. But people wanted it because they wanted like a contact sport on a field, but there's no field. It's only like Madison Square Garden or baseball teams.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me put this out to y'all like this, right? So I grew up playing all kinds of sports. I played a lot of soccer growing up too, being a Nigerian. But I maybe bought one ticket to a soccer game in my entire life. And I think that, if you think about it, the fact that folks have played, we rely on way too heavily in our marketing plans. Think of all the sports all of us here played that we haven't bought a single ticket to go see. I think the most participated in sport in the United States is soccer.
Yep.
I mean, is it really helping the MLS? Not really.
So they sell like ticket wise, but no one watches MLS. Like no one watches MLS. People go watch.
I got boys that play it and I don't watch it. That's the sad part about it.
People go to the games. They don't watch.
Because
I'll watch Maryland before I watch MLS. No disrespect to MLS, but I have an engagement with the Maryland soccer team. Yeah. I don't have that with any MLS sides. And I mean, I'm in there one of the best, DC United.
Yeah, they want to go to the soccer matches, but then if you can sit at home and choose to watch MLS or EPL may actually be easier to find.
Yes.
On NBC, bro.
10 times out of 10.
NBC Sports. You can get NBC Sports Gold too. Same package for rugby. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different conversation on that though. But yeah, it's people go by player bases way too much for potential fans.
Right. Because they ignore the conversion rate.
Yeah.
Which
what's funny is in this country, I really don't understand why people rely on the rugby community because statistically, so there's 120-ish thousand people that are registered members, right? I would say 90,000 of that are not rugby consumers
at all. Period.
They do their thing on Saturday.
And shit, 80% of them don't even pay their dues. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
they're not paying to play.
They don't even want
to
pay to
play to watch.
Pay to play? Why would I pay to watch?
They're all in shorts at the pitch and shit. They don't buy nothing.
So true, so bad. But yeah, so I think especially with Houston and Glendale, I think there is not a reliance on the rugby community. I think they're trying to expand beyond that. Like they are connected and engaging with the rugby community because they know those people are important, but they are marketing outside of that because you have to if you want to have a sustainable project.
Yeah, people like also when people say, why isn't there a San Francisco team or Northern California team? Because there are so many rugby players in Northern California. It's not like you walk down the street and you see people wearing rugby jerseys or anything like that. It happens.
Yo, Mark Zuckerberg says he'll pay for a team.
Yeah, never happening. Well, like it has good tradition out there, but at the same time, like even though there are a lot more players there, it's still like a lot more compared to 20. So it's not like there's hundreds of thousands of players out there who are really into it. You have to build your fan base at these places. It helps when you're first starting off to be in a place with lots of rugby fans. But
It does,
in the long run.
But think about for the NHL, I use that as an example. How many hockey players are in Tampa Bay? Like, or in Nashville.
Hey, there's a lot of hockey players in this town. Okay, the first overall pick last year is from Scottsdale.
See,
or Vegas.
So, yeah, now we talk
How
about
many
Vegas.
hockey players are in Vegas?
So
how many people live in Vegas?
There are probably more hockey players in Cleveland than any of those cities, but Cleveland doesn't have a team.
Yep. There you go. So, I think we could retitle this episode the Commercial Musings podcast. But
yeah, we really want to keep coming back to this topic. Like we're dying to come back to this topic every single chance we can.
So we're gonna make this work.
We like money.
And by the way, guys, real quick before we pass on, I just found something I was never aware of. Apparently, a couple of Google employees have created their own rugby team called Google Rugby.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They had one of the guys on that team is very good. I forget who it is, but Google, most of those tech firms up there, they have athletic campuses that rival some D1 colleges. And I'm like, you're like, what? Because guess what? You don't want your employees dying at their desk.
Right.
You also want them to stay at the office longer.
Exactly. Yep. All that stuff.
You want them around.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a gym? Guess what? Dude's coming in on Saturday. You know?
I might as well do work. I'm here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Google employee who lived in a Mack truck that he bought for $1,000, and then he just did everything at Google, like showers, breakfast, gym, work. He just slept in the truck, and then that was it.
Yeah, because an apartment is
a box in an apartment in San Francisco costs about $800 a month, and that's not even a joke. Someone actually pays that. So
right. No, I worked for a biotech startup in Mountain View, and I for 44 seconds considered moving over there, and then I looked at the rent prices. Was like, nah, you're gonna keep paying for
Mountain View, man. You're gonna move past Gilroy because even the home prices in Gilroy are expensive.
Right. Right.
So,
I mean, might as well live in Sacramento. There's nothing you can do.
It's funny. It's funny though. Victor probably feels the same way as people who live in New York. We're used to really high rent. So whenever if I ever just dream about moving to a different place, as long as I'm making similar salary, I know that my rent is just gonna drop, or I'm gonna get twice as large apartment. San Francisco is not the case. There's one place that's above New York, and it's San Francisco, pretty much. That's the one place I can't have that dream.
I actually thought it was Honolulu, but I guess I was
pretty
wrong.
expensive.
Honolulu's I don't know. I mean, weird. Honolulu's way expensive, but everyone, let's go to Hawaii. We're gonna go to Iowa because
what a ball.
Because the producer pays $7.
Let's get out there and chill out there in them cornfields.
The producer has a massive backyard and a 2-bedroom house for $700 a month on his mortgage.
I hate him so much. But I pay more for his for that he pays for mortgage. I pay $1,015 for a studio. And this guy pays $700 for a 2-bedroom in Iowa. That sucks. That is not fair.
My parents live in Delaware, and I live in the DC area. Our house costs more than my mortgage now. It's like ridiculous. It costs less than my mortgage now. Like it's
There's no
I
taxes.
don't know how it's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's how.
Oh, speaking of which, are you if you're in the DC area, are you going to head over to the Wales South Africa match when they?
I'll be in the building.
Be in the building. You're playing a proper rugby match down there.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, he kept. I'm. You know what? As much as I love the Eagles, I'm not even mad at him.
Yeah. Everyone's pissed off.
I'm not mad at him for playing somebody else. I'm just
for actually saying the reason.
You didn't need. Well, I mean, if South Africa said it, I would have respected him. But it was
let's put it this way: we ain't beating either one of them right now. So,
unfortunately,
let's get a coach in the building. And then we can worry about who we're going to play and this, that, and the other. Like, we just do not have our stuff together yet.
Hey, he's supposed to be in Colorado right now for the NDS.
Right. I did see that.
So
I did see that.
We'll see if he shows up because the last guy who came from South Africa,
Damn.
Damn. But all right, we're gonna move forward.
Moving on
to player signings. Peter Naruma, Austin. He plays all sorts of positions. He is a flying Fijian. Peter Naruma Jr., his father was a lock and loose forward in the late 80s for Fiji. Peter was a Fiji U18 player, then went to St. Peter's College in New Zealand before going to play at Wheeling Jesuit. He most recently played up at Metropolis. So I'm guessing his old teammate, Peter Malcolm, was like, hey, man, come to Austin. But this was confirmed by one of the guys on the board named Marius, who was paying attention to all of these social media postings by Austin. And then I confirmed it later on in the week. And Peta he can play center, he can play 8, he can play lock. He is a stud. Then for New Orleans, we've got Punata Joey Sock. He's mentioned in the Striffler Rugby City podcast that went out last night. He's a winger and scrum half. He's played a lot of high-level sevens. He's been a member of the Falcons multiple times. He's been in Eagle Sevens camp a few times, came through the Tiger Academy, and most recently played with Columbus Rugby Club. Dan, you got 2 guys.
Yeah, I think this is by far the most interesting signing for a couple of reasons. One, it's by San Diego. The San Diego Legion and Digital Sport both confirmed the signing of fly half Tag.
So tag. I don't know how you say leader unless it is just leader. I think you probably have to say it a different way.
Tag leader. I don't know.
Just anyway, a leader.
TL. So I'll get to why it's interesting in a second, but he originally came over from Ireland, used to play, at least in the Connect Rugby system, Lindenwood as a player, but then I think ended up being a coach or something like that because he wasn't allowed to play because he was professional or whatever. Became a player coach for the St. Louis Royals Rugby. Really helped them win their D3 Club National Championship. He also played with the Boston Irish Wolfhounds. The part that really makes this interesting is that tag leader is actually the COO of Digitus Sport. I think there are only 2 people based in the U.S. for Digitus. They have signed a couple of U.S.-based players. He personally helped David Ainu get signed by the Toulouse French Academy. So, I mean, it's great. This entire Digitus Sport whole system is great. However, he's now a player too. So, it's kind of interesting what's going to happen now that he's playing for San Diego. I don't know exactly how that happened. I mean, I was pre-law, so I know how law works, but I mean, he's working. He's going to be a San Diego player, but at the same time, I think he's taking a back seat. This is actually, I'm getting all of this from. Sorry, forgot to mention the source. It was an Irish article that mentioned all of these things.
Murray Kinsella, writer for the 42.ie, one of the preeminent rugby writers in the world, to be honest. He got on a plane, went to New Zealand, and followed the Lions around for 10 straight weeks. And he's pretty good at game analysis. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really interesting signing. It also wasn't announced officially by San Diego. So that also is kind of interesting there. I mean, they have a couple players that we know of that kind of got announced through other sources. One being the photo that they took, and we kind of figured that was the case. So we'll see what happens with their announcements. We heard announcements were coming soon from San Diego, so you know, let's see what's going on with them. But the second signing we have coming up, Melvin De Souza from NOLA. I don't know too much about him except that he came from Metropolis, is now playing for NOLA. I think he's a crossover athlete. I believe he was both a football player and wrestler. Just started playing a couple years ago. So I think this is actually what Nate Osborne, was it with your interview, Aaron, that Nate said that he was specifically looking at certain crossover athletes to build this sort of academy?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's who he is. A bit of a raw talent, so it's good to see them kind of, round out the roster there. So those are my two signings I got. Victor, I think you got someone too.
Yes, sir. I have a couple players. So we're going to start from the top. So first, guys, we have two signings from New Orleans called Rugby Club. First is 8-man Will Crawford, who's coming from Louisiana Tech, or Tech Rugby, or LA Tech is also the nickname. So he's originally from Fayetteville, Arkansas. No, I'm not familiar with a lot of things in Arkansas, but he's from Fayetteville. And he's learned his rugby while attending a rugby camp from Culver Academies, which I never heard of them until last week. Apparently, Culver is one of the top private institutions in the country. Go figure. It's a college preparatory school, by the way, known from its high tuition rate. That's what I found. It's known because it's really expensive.
It's like $50,000, man.
I didn't know.
You got to be coming from money to go there.
Come on, bro. We esports. No foul language. What's happening? So, anyways, so the switch. I'm glad you caught that esports joke. I'm glad.
Oh, God.
I knew one of you guys would know about esports. We talk about video game sports, guys. Like sometimes the casters curse and people say, "Hey, go esports." You know, some people. So that was a joke. Anyways, so he's done for that. So after graduation, he headed to the University of Arkansas and then moved to LA Tech. The switch proved useful because he spent the summer playing for Hot Old Boys Maris in Wellington, New Zealand, to fine-tune his technique. And hopefully with this incorporation to the NOLA Gold squad, Crawford's development should rise faster and might be part of a USA Eagle setup in the future, I hope. Then after him, we also had again the other guy from NOLA, which was another 8-man, Mr. Todd Dupre. I want to say Dupre because I think it's French. He is from Louisiana, from West Wego, which sounds like a Native American word maybe. And he's been a constant player in the back row of Louisiana State University from the Tigers. And he has made the Red River Conference first teams above juniors and seniors several times. He graduated this past December, actually, with a degree in kinesiology. So kudos to him. Congrats for graduating. He's expected to do big things for the club. So kudos to him. Now, lastly, and I don't know how we forgot this gentleman to mention him, but also signed last week, we have a Seattle Seawolf player, Mr. Peter Smith. He's coming straight from the Northwest, from Chicago Lions. He's originally from Ingleside, New South Wales, Australia. He began playing rugby union for his local club, North of Sovereigns.
We didn't forget him.
No worries, it happens.
But I forgot to put him in the script.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't forget about him. No, not a problem. So again, he played for Northern Suburbs, who plays for the Shoot Shield competition, and that's where one of our hookers, James Silvergram, plays for. He plays not for that team. He plays for Manly, but in the same competition. He left Australia in 2011 as a 21-year-old, and he was part of the Welsh team Ospreys in then Pro 12, now Pro 14. He was only there for a year, and then eventually moved to Japan's top league, and he played for Coca-Cola Red Sparks in 2012. Then from there, he moved to another team, Kubota Spears, and then he suffered an injury in 2015. He left Japan to come to the U.S. to play American football for the University of Central Missouri as a punter. And then he ended up playing for Salina Liberty in the AFL. And I'm not talking about Australian Football League, by the way. I'm sorry. IFL, not AFL. IFL, because you need to put the Australian twang into it.
No. It's a different. It's called the Indoor Football League.
Oh, IFL. Yes, Indoor Football League. I'm sorry.
So I'm guessing that means he gets paid less than the dude who only gets paid $100. But I don't.
I'm sure.
Match fee that's less than what's on TV.
Sorry, it's because when Australians say A, sounds like an I to me. So I thought that's what you were trying to. I thought it was a joke. But yes, IFL, Indoor Football League. That's true. Then he eventually returned to Union and was playing for Chicago until recently. Again, now he's moving to the Seawolves. So with that, guys, those are our signings for the week. So we had 7 of them.
So we'll go to, I guess this is like,
in fact,
I'm going to call this a view. Sort of news, sort of abuse. So only 17 players attended the San Diego Legion Combine. Looking at the social media presence of SD right now, it's the lowest in the league. They haven't really posted much since, their full announcement back, in late October. There just isn't much, and they haven't really grown a lot since, the first couple weeks. And there really wasn't a push. And we sort of felt that when it was announced, like it wasn't pushed immediately via social channels. We sort of like found out via, a guy just perusing the website. Smashed them, bro. Shout out to you. And, I think that sort of stunted their social growth. You can't really neglect social. Traditional marketing is very important, but the social is now really folded into your traditional marketing. It's part of like the cogs in the marketing machine that you have to, I wouldn't say rely on it, but use it effectively. Like, Glendale, Austin, Sabercats have. Largest combines were Utah and Seattle. Austin, Huns, and Houston both had really good combines. And then NOLA and Glendale did not run combines, but they have full teams in camp right now. I don't know what this means. It could mean that they have all their players, but I would have liked, when it comes to assessing people in combines, you want a lot of people to show up because you're looking at the measurables, right? Quantity to an extent is better than quality, because if you only have 3 guys show up, it's hard to assess them versus other people that could have shown up. So I would say it's a concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's we haven't seen much from them. I remember when they first were announced and we heard there'd be announcements coming up. I think they were in November, which is when the CBS Sports deal was. I think that's when it happened. We were waiting to see what was going to happen, and we haven't seen too much. It's at first I said, okay, I'm going to hold back and see what happens. But then as weeks go by, we still haven't heard an official player announcement, not a single official player announcement. We know about 3 or 4, as I mentioned before, but none were actually officially mentioned. It's a shame because San Diego's, I think, had a pretty good fan base for pro, and they already even have a Facebook group that's for supporters. It's the only team, as far as I'm concerned, that actually has a supporters fan page that's pretty active for the most part of people posting, but you can kind of see a little bit of frustration from some of the fans. So I would I would hope that they do give a bit more so people in the area really know that there is a team that's there, that they really actively engage with the community. Because if they really start kicking into gear, in the next 3 weeks, that's February. That's already 2 months out from when the league starts. Meanwhile, you have Houston, who has all the preseason matches that have been going on since 2 weeks ago. So it's not the end of the world, but it is a little concerning from that part.
And moving on to tweet of the week. Dan, you found something.
I actually didn't find this, but someone said I found this. So, I actually know this. So this week's tweet comes from Bill Conrad, who's at Campaign Conrad. He's the coach of Kenmore Rugby in Tonawanda, upstate New York, which is close to Buffalo. Coach Conrad tweeted a picture of his 6-year-old son celebrating his birthday and the following caption: "What is the 6-year-old birthday request? A Kenmore boy's rugby cake. We assume Dad plays 6 because that is the number on the cake jersey, but happy birthday nonetheless." So that's really awesome. The kid looked, really excited. I think if I'm not mistaken, Kenmore is like a youth rugby club. At least it seems that way. So I think he may actually play. So that's awesome. It's getting some future Eagles out there. Kid had a huge smile. So that's really, really nice to see. Just getting more kids out there playing. I mean, honestly, at that age, just give them a ball and say, run around and throw it at someone else, and then they think they're playing rugby. So, that's what we really need coming up. Well, that's our tweet. I think we have a guest joining us right now.
Oh, hey, guys, what's going on? It's good to see you.
Where have you been?
I was just back here taking a nap. I kind of dozed off before the beginning of the show, but I understand it's time for questions from Bob. And so we got a few of them this week, actually. First, I want to give a shout out to the guys who've been hanging out with us over on the comments section here on YouTube. Thanks for watching and joining in on the conversation. So first up, I'm actually going to go ahead and shoot you a question from Super Sentai. Sentai, probably. Sentai? Okay. My Japanese is a little rough. Anyway, he would like to know, what happened to the Pacific Nations Cup? I missed that competition. I want to see the U.S. play the likes of Japan, Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji again.
We need to play those teams more often. But the answer is the ARC, the America's Rugby Championship, went from an A-side competition to a full capped side competition minus Argentina 15s. And it was replaced by an A-side competition called the America's Pacific Challenge, which is a 6-team competition usually held in the summers. Fiji played there. I think Samoa played in it this summer. So there's a developmental competition called the America's Pacific Challenge that has taken its place now.
And also the America's Rugby Challenge has been formed since then. So before that, we didn't really have that many test matches for the U.S. side. But now we get an additional 5 per year from South American teams that's consistent. So it is also kind of replacing that too. So I guess they don't really feel the need to replace them, though. I think it'd be really awesome to bring them back, just because we always tend to lose to them, or at least most of them. And most of them are also ranked higher than us. So it's a real challenge for our side to play against. But they were replaced by similar kinds of competitions.
All right. Well, very interesting. And thank you again to Super Sentai for turning that question in. And as always, be sure to jump in on the comments whenever you guys want. And we love to hear from you. So we got 2 questions actually were left over from last week's show that we didn't get to. So these are coming off of our Reddit page, which for everybody watching at home, that's reddit.com/r/mlrugby. Go there, and we'd like to take questions from folks for questions from Bob on that site. So these are both coming from Humpers92, and he would like to know, in 2019, so looking at season 2, can MLR use a round robin style continue to use a round robin style league as it is now, or will it be easier and financially better to switch to conferences? So as we're expanding the team lineup, I think is basically what we're talking about here.
I guess it depends on if they go from 7 to 10 or 7 to 12. Although I don't, even if they go to 12, I don't think they'll split to conferences. But it won't be, home and away like in Aviva, because I think the schedule will extend like 8 more weeks out. So you'll have like a 14 match schedule plus playoffs. That's what I think.
I think it also depends on where the teams are. If they're absolutely nowhere near each other, you might not see that conference setup, because the conference might come around because it's just easier for people to get from place to place and cheaper, saves money, and also helps build some rivalry. But if it's just as expensive to get, from Texas to Colorado or Texas to New York, or I don't know how much it costs, but if it doesn't make sense, it may not end up coming out. Or you may see some people like Austin and Houston and NOLA might play each other more, maybe twice as opposed to once. But you know what they said there.
I think the numbers are going to matter for there to be, because every match is an opportunity for revenue, right? So you want to have as many of those within a certain period of time as possible, but you also want to increase the feasibility of these things being successful. So one thing that the MLR is set up right, at least as of now, the teams are all centered around hubs, which not difficult to fly into. With planning, the costs aren't too bad depending on where you're going from place to place. But I can't imagine, and this is speaking in terms of what would sell to the American sports market, I couldn't imagine us having more than 10 or 12 teams and not going conferences, just because that's not some enormous list of teams of 10, 12, 15 teams, whatever we end up with. I can't see the public taking to that and understanding it. They want to know, okay, going from group to getting out of your group, which is the playoffs, and what is the method? Did everybody play each other so we have something to debate about on television or whatever? You know what I mean? We love these things. Think about the NBA, East and Western Conference, AFC, NFC. These are things that I'm just thinking about, are the biggest fish here, which is the American sports market. I think we need to kind of tag into that if we have the opportunity. And also, nobody's going to watch 12 individual matches and then 3 or 4 playoff matches. That's an enormously long season and not a lot of room for error in terms of weather,
Yeah. I mean, numbers do matter a lot when it comes to how this actual structure is going to be. I think it's going to grow organically in terms of the actual structure, similar to MLS. So right now we have 7. We're expecting 10 to 12 next year, perhaps. We actually had a YouTube question right now asking, is there an eventual goal for the number of MLR teams? And if so, where might they be located? How many can the U.S. realistically handle? So I think they could. I mean, I can definitely handle a lot. But I think did they actually say that 24 was their goal?
No,
or are we just?
No, I think I think a lot of people are spitballing based on MLS. This is the one thing I'll give. This is the one thing I'll give Doug credit for, is he did the research on market cap. So when leagues become really profitable in this country, it is when they reach max saturation, and the leagues are about between 30 and 32 teams, not more. That's when, and they're all a closed shop. No relegation, none of that BS. That's when people start making a lot of money. Look at the NFL. Look at the NBA. Look at Major League Baseball. So that he was right about that. Do I think MLR needs that. I think 24 is first thing I want is stability.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, this league to actually last for 10 years or more.
I want this league to last for 10 years. If we get to 24 teams in 10 years and everyone's making money,
Brilliant.
But we need to get to where, you know, the league as a whole is profitable before, you know, we start hitting max saturation.
Yeah, Rugby 2 actually, even though, I mean, it may completely change in the U.S. because we have a lot more people living here, but you see rugby stadiums overseas and they have like 8 to 15,000 for most of them. Some of them are larger, but a lot of them are pretty small stadiums. We also have a ton of more people living in the U.S. in some of these cities. So like Houston has like 5 million people. That's more than a lot of cities in England. But you could have like it's actually what comes from that is a more intimate kind of feel where you go to the games and you're a couple of rows away from the players, and like they sit down on the bench, you can hear them talking to each other. So that's a really awesome experience because then you go to an NFL game, and even if you're all the way up close and pay $150 or $250 for those tickets, you still have this huge buffer for obvious reasons. But you have this huge buffer from them and the players, and you can see them, but you still feel like they're so far away. So it's actually really nice to be able to have that sort of feeling. So I think that might make it a bit easier if you only need to have, you know, if you can get 10,000 people in a stadium, eventually move up to maybe MLS stadiums and share it or something like that. But, you know, you can get smaller size stadiums. So that kind of helps a bit with this, I think, at least.
Well, and a quick shout out, that question actually came from, what is it here? Fan art exhibit. So thank you, Fan Art, for sending that one in. So continuing with questions, guys, one more from Humpers here. He would like to know, talking about the addition of Vancouver, with them announced, seeing as the ownership is at least part ownership of Seattle as well as Vancouver, do we expect to see more multiple team owners coming out of this process?
So sort of surprised at this, but when I asked some, not MLR, but some team guys, some team officials, they're like, hey, you know, the investment model is an MLS hybrid model. And in the early days of the MLS, you know, AEG owned 6 teams. Hunt Sports owned 3 teams. So you get to the point where you're stable before you have to get stability. So, yeah, it's possible.
All right. Anybody else had any thoughts on that? Moving on. Last question of the evening comes from Daniel, once again off the comments on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. He would like to know, will MLR have an import or overseas player cap to protect homegrown talent?
Yeah, they currently do. I actually just responded to the question because I realized we're at an hour and 45 minutes and people probably don't care that much about us to stay. But yeah, they currently have a cap of 5 foreign players. We don't know the exact specifics, but that's 5 players for the game for match day. So you can have more, and like people like Seattle have more, but 5 match day. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that all I know is it's 5 non-Eagles eligible. So that can be people who haven't hit their 3 years or 5 years of residency. I don't know the specifics. I think they're trying to work out specifics, but right now they just had 5 foreigners. And you can figure it out, I guess. I think some people try and interpret it differently.
So currently the rule mirrors USA's club rugby policy.
Yeah.
That was a direct quote.
Yeah.
So that could change. I think they're going to bring in a lot of Charlie Hewitts and Connor Murphys, 22, 23-year-old guys who went through age grade systems in the UK. that, could eventually become Eagle qualified.
And this is something that's actually really interesting about the article about Tag Leader, wherever you say his name, is that he specifically says how there's a ton of guys over in Ireland who they only want to play for their province. So if they only want to play for Munster and they don't see that as a shot, they're still really talented. They went to the academy system. They're 21, 22, but they see that they're playing behind a bunch of other guys and will not have a shot. They basically just go back to the club rugby and, kind of sit there for a bit and that's it. But he's saying that, a lot of guys like that should and could come over to the league like US and MLR, and that's where they can really shine. They can get their chance, and then maybe Munster or some other club would come back to them and say, hey, you actually, we can see you now. You're not behind 15 other Irish guys. You kind of stand out there. So that's actually something that may happen a lot in the future too. I'd really like to see that too.
Yeah, I think, a guy who is maybe second or third team in a tier 1 nation comes here and they're starting on everything. So
yeah,
even if that's just the state of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. But even if they are replacement guys or backups, they're still going to come in with the fundamentals, which if you're coming in as a backup, if you don't have the fundamentals, then what's the point of having you there unless you're really for development as a future player? So if they come in with the fundamentals, that makes it so that you probably wouldn't see as many huge blowouts especially in the last 15, 20, 30 minutes. So that'd be really helpful.
Very good. Well, guys, I think that about wraps us up for the evening. This has been it's been a long but very, very informative and interesting discussion. So thank you so much for bringing this to us tonight. Thank you, Tosan, for joining us. Anybody have any final thoughts on our way out?
Tosan, do you have any final thoughts about your experience here, how much you loved it, and how much you will recommend us to your friends?
Oh, absolutely recommend. I mean, the Earful of Dirt podcast had a blast. Let's say if you're not checking it out, you're missing something. Come on out here and get with these guys.
It's a soundbite. We gotta find a way to grab that.
Yeah, we got our first commercial right there.
On ESPN.
VileRugby.com endorsed. There you go.
Fans will come running.
Aaron, you got anything for us on the way out?
Catch me with Sean Davies tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So that is 1 p.m. Eastern on this channel. I shared it. No, I'll share it early in the morning. It's late. So, yeah. And, oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we introduced Josh Fredlin before Christmas. He is our content site editor, and our content site, editorial site, is up. It is www.earfulofdirt.com.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that plug, Aaron. Yeah, earfulofdirt.com is live now, guys. And that's something Josh has been working really hard on. You can find original content there. We're all kind of contributing articles here and there, and then Josh is doing most of the work, most of the heavy lifting himself. So it may not be the prettiest site on the internet, but you know what? It's what we got, and we're bringing it to you. You can also find our shows every week there, both the video and the audio versions. And it's pretty much your one-stop shop. So you can get a hold of us. We got our email contact, all of our phone numbers, which Victor's about to send over to you. And yeah, so it's something we're pretty proud of. And be looking for those articles to start spreading around the internet like a disease. I would say almost like a virus, if you will. I don't know. Anyway, that's what we got. Yeah, earfulofdirt.com. Victor, you ready to tell the folks how they can get a hold of us otherwise?
Yes, I can. And also, guys, real quick, shout outs to the person that asked our first question, Mr. Super Sentai. If you're listening, just to let you know, I'm also a Super Sentai fan. You don't know, guys, Super Sentai is a show from Japan that inspired the Power Rangers, which is still going on 30 plus years on.
Didn't didn't they take actual clips from that for the Power Rangers fight sequences, and they didn't even change it?
Yes, that is exactly right, guys. So Power Rangers is actually the Americanized version of Super Sentai. So they took a show called Zero Ranger and turned it into the Power Rangers from the early 90s. Yes, guys, there will be a Power Rangers podcast if you're going to ask me.
Power Rangers podcast.
There has to be
not podcast, POP.
There has to be a Power Rangers podcast out there somewhere.
Of course, it's a Power Rangers podcast.
Everything.
Of course, it's Power Rangers podcast. I don't know how it's called, but I'm sure there is. So, anyways, guys, so just to finish up. Go ahead, Daniel.
Ranger Danger podcast or The Grid. They're two different Power Rangers podcasts that I found within 2 seconds.
There you go. There's two. What was that? Ranger Danger, and what's the second one?
Ranger Danger and The Grid.
The Grid. Yeah. That's cool. That's a reference to the morphing grid, which is the thing that allows them to become Power Rangers. That's a cool. I like that. Cool.
Nerd.
I know that much.
Yeah, I am. And I'm not.
Nerd.
I am.
It's okay, Victor. I'm a nerd too.
I'm not afraid to admit it. I am a nerd. I'm also a rugby otaku as well. Rugby otaku all the way. Anime otaku and rugby otaku.
Yeah.
Otaku is someone that's like super obsessive about something. So for me, that's rugby and anime. So also rugby otaku. Right. So, anyways, guys. So this is the end of our podcast. Thank you for podcast. Sorry, I keep pronouncing my D's into P's. Again, English is my second language. Thank you for joining us, guys. Once again, thank you to Mr. Tosan from Bio Rugby for joining us as well. Glad that you enjoyed your time, sir. Hopefully we'll have you. We need to have a podcast with you and Gift, because that way we get 2 Nigerian American guys in rugby and me, and with 3 brown guys and everyone else. So let's see if we can pull something off like that. That'll be good.
I'm brown too.
And now we add. We get the 2 whitest guys. We get Daniel and Corey, because Aaron's only half Mexican, so we just move into the side. So we just have to fight. Just the 5 of us. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I know Corey's gonna cut that part of the podcast version. I know he does. I know he's gonna do that. No, but in all honesty, guys, thank you for joining us. Of course, as I always say, subscribe to our channel, YouTube, and youtube.com/earful of dirt. Of course, find us at Earful of Dirt Podcast. Like us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, of course. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow us or add us to your feed on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Player FM. I don't know if we're on Acast already. We might be on Acast. Need to check. And as always, guys, call us on our phone and leave us a voicemail. Again, still waiting. That phone number is 1-720-600-2679. So again, 1-720-600-2679. Drop us that voicemail if possible. And keep in mind that we do this live streams on YouTube at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Central, and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Sorry, it's probably because it's already 11 o'clock, and I'm thinking 11 o'clock. So make sure to, again, follow those times if possible. So with that said, guys, my name is Victor. Again, that was Aaron. That was Dan. That was Corey. Again, Tosan, our guest. Thank you once again for joining us. And we'll catch you hopefully next week.
Connect with Earful of Dirt anytime. We're on Facebook and Twitter as Earful of Dirt. You can email us at earfulofdirt@gmail.com or call and leave us a voicemail at 720-600-2679. Until next time, we're Aaron, Dan, and Victor. I'm Corey. Thanks for joining us.